Hey, what's going on, amigos? This is Kemo Sabe, and what I'm about to tell you, it's probably something you won't believe, but I believe it because I was there and I saw it. As you can see and hear on social media, there are a lot of reports and videos that are coming out mentioning UFOs, mentioning even people, especially those in Miami, the black tall figures that were UFOs, and nobody knows exactly the truth and exactly what happened. So, with that being said, what I'm about to tell you again, you may not believe it, but at least hear me out. I will say February, not May, February 2001. I can't remember the actual day, but it was February of 2001. And I got to tell you, I had just become a Christian, and and I got baptized and stuff like that. I'm not here to talk about religion, but I remember one night I just had done praying, and I remember just praying for some sort of help. Wasn't doing that well spiritually, and I was asking God for help. And I got to tell you, if I'm mentioning God, that means, I'm honest about what I'm saying, and I'm serious about what I'm saying. I'm not making this up. And I remember after my prayer, I got up. I used to live in Escondido, over by Midway. There was a 7-Eleven, and on Mission. And I had a big old window. That house is still there. And they still have that big window. It's a pretty large window, maybe 10 feet across, give or take 8, and 4 feet, maybe 5 by 10. As I get up and look, as I always used to look to the window, and I always had, and in fact, I didn't have any curtains. So I can see 7-Eleven, I can see Midway, and I can see all of these vehicles going by. And there was a panaderia across the street. And I remember getting up, and I just happened to be looking at the panaderia where they sell bread, Mexican bread. Back then, 2001, nothing was being built over the hill that is over at North Parkway and Lincoln at this moment. There are many houses and well developed. But back then, 2001, there used to be a ranch up in that hill, and there used to be a lot of cows. Used to be a ranch with a lot of cows and animals and stuff like that. I do remember the cows and driving by there a few times. And I just happened to look up because something caught my attention, and my attention was what looked like, I thought, a helicopter. Now, this was about 9 p.m., give or take. I didn't drink any alcohol. I just mentioned that I had become a Christian, and I didn't drink, not even a beer. And as I look up, again, I'm just staring at the panaderia, but then I see this thing above the building of that panaderia. Something was spinning around. And it looked like a helicopter at first because I had never seen anything what I saw, and the only thing I can come up with was a helicopter. And I remember it was it was just like a disc-shaped light. Now, I didn't see the ship or whatever it was, or a helicopter. All I can see was this circle, kind of like this, right? Just a circular thing with a lot of lights all around, and these lights were pretty bright. And I just remember it was hovering by that hill with all these lights, and these lights were going back and forth with, I will probably say, purple, blue. they just kept on spinning. And I'm like, huh, well, that's interesting. The distance from my window up to that hill, it was about, I'll probably say, maybe half a mile or less. And I just kept looking at it, and I'm like, what is that thing? Why is it spinning? Next thing that happened that just blew me off, totally blew. My mind was just, what was that? It just took off. Like it just completely, somehow, with incredible speed, it just flew away. Up. Not horizontal, not down, just up. And like you see in the movies where these spaceships just fly off, right, at an incredible amount of speed, and you don't know what it is. But you know what it is because you're watching a movie now. This was real. I saw it, and I don't know what it was doing on that hill other than maybe they were trying to get some cows. Because back in those days, there were reports that these alien spaceships were looking for cows, and a lot left mutilated cows that everybody thought was chupacabra, but it wasn't. Anyways, that's my story. Now, again, you may believe it, you may not believe it, but I saw it. I can't tell you exactly what I saw, but what I saw was a spinning, like this shape of a spaceship far away from my window up into that hill. I'm just making an example here of what it looked like. This, just kind of shape. Just think of this disc shape. And what just blew me off, or what blew my mind away, was just the speed and the way it just flew away. I knew it wasn't a helicopter. I knew it wasn't an airplane, because at that point I was like, 20-ish years old, and I had seen helicopters fly, and I've seen the airplanes fly, and there's no way that I have ever seen a helicopter stand still with lights hovering around. Normally they just go out of speed, right? These things you can kind of tell with your intelligence, speed, and space and stuff like that. I can tell you that there are two people that I have spoken with in the last 10, 15 years that they also saw it. And this was in the city of Escondido, California, San Diego area. If you saw something like that, similar to what I'm describing, on that month, February 2001, give or take. Now, I could be wrong on my date exactly, but it was around that time of that year. It could have been March, could have been January, but I know it was February because I just had gotten baptized and around that time. So if you saw something like it, write it in the comments below and tell me what you saw. That's one of the stories. I'll tell you another story on my next video about a ghost that kept following me while I worked at Radio Shack. I used to work at Radio Shack way back in the 97, 98, and I used to manage a Radio Shack store in Oceanside. And there was this building that in that area where that store was, that area used to be where they used to hang people. They used to hang Indians and people. So I'll tell you more about that on my next video. But for now, write down in the comments below if you ever remember seeing an UFO or whatever you want to call it in Escondido. Until then.